probably noticed by now that the facility isn't in great shape. It's a long story, so I'll cut it short. The central core in charge of maintaining the facility has been put out of commission. I tried to look after the place in her absence, but I don't have the tools. Good news though, I found better tools. A device capable of repairing the whole enrichment center. The only problem is that only a human can turn it on, so I hoped maybe you could fill in that role for me. The life of every human and core in the facility is at risk if we don't stop the collapse. Come on, let's go. I'll explain the rest on the way.
Sterling's mission changed about halfway through my time on the project. At first, his goal was exactly the opposite from what it turned out to be. He wanted to make sure GLaDOS was gone for good and that there was no way she could ever come back. That got changed for a lot of reasons. The more we fleshed out Sterling's character, the more we were able to kind of piece it all together. He's just a little guy who wants to clean. But when there's too much to clean, how far is he willing to go? If he can't clean up Aperture on his own, who's the only one who can? And voila, our psychotic janitor with mommy issues was born.
For as long as Port Revolution has existed, there was always the idea of the first behind-the-scenes map after the test chambers in Chapter 1. It was originally called Transition and served the purposes of moving the player from the modern Aperture areas to the overgrown chambers on the surface. What you see in the final game must be the 5th or so iteration. This map has had an identity issue for years until it finally received its last redesign and became what it is now. Previous versions featured almost no gameplay. You would just walk along generic, uninspired office spaces with no clear direction. This final version is the culmination of multiple disconnected ideas that never found a home until now. Cutscenes are a hot topic in games. Games like Portal are very light on cutscenes, and players typically dislike them on repeat playthroughs. Although they're fun the first time around, overly long, mandatory cutscenes can quickly become frustrating on repeat playthroughs. We want to respect the player's time and try to avoid mandatory cutscenes as much as possible. However, there were still times where we had to ensure the player listens to crucial plot details. In those cases, we like to add little details for the players to look at, like the signs on these walls.
We need to get closer to the surface. I found an elevator in this direction.
I love putting little personal bits and pieces into the environments. The background on this poster is a photo I took of islands in Croatia. The monitors next to it are a reference to the internship I mentioned in the last map. I guess I was quicker than I expected when I did my month of programming work in 3 days. For the rest of the month I was asked to set up dozens of monitors, which filled the hallway stacked on the boxes just like this. Lesson learned, I guess. Don't overperform in corporate environments or you'll just get more work. To emphasize the feeling of exploring areas you are not meant to see, we move players through vents in other areas that are normally not built for humans to traverse. There is no convenient and straight path to the exit. This also helps to further sell the dead and decaying state of the enrichment center and keeps players more engaged than a direct hallway.
Up ahead is the turret disposal facility. Since they're all defective, they shouldn't be able to hurt you, but still be careful.
One of the new graphical features we added is a custom implementation of ray-marched volumetric lighting, as can be seen on the light shafts coming out of these fans. Source Engine already has support for faking volumetric lighting by placing semi-transparent sprites. However, these cheats don't support real-time shadows, so we looked for other methods. Ray marching seemed like a good fit, as it is the most common technique used in modern games. Getting it to work in our custom engine branch, though, was extremely difficult, taking over a year of working on and off on the feature. As always, portals complicate everything, leading to months of dealing with stencil buffer and render texture related issues. Towards the end of Revolution's development, it was looking like it wouldn't make it in, but we were still able to add it to a few scenes throughout the mod. For the anniversary update, we made a number of improvements in terms of visuals and performance.
Poor turrets. You might think that their pain is only simulated, but how is it different to yours or mine? They really don't deserve to be shredded, but don't worry. All their scrap will be recycled for production, and only surplus turrets get shredded after all.
While this vista was largely created in one go, it required a lot of little tweaks to have the impact we were looking for. Players would enter the area at the left end of the hallway, with a pillar blocking line of sight of the fan. Players would regularly immediately turn right, walk towards the exit, which was open at the time, and never even notice the large fan vista. We added some holes to the truss, which are still there now, but this didn't solve the issue. Moving the entrance door to a more central location helped, but players would often still immediately leave the room. We wanted players to appreciate the view and notice the large fan, which becomes more important later. Eventually we gave in and locked the door, and gave Sterling some dialogue.
So, I'm looking through your records, and I see you have a family. How are the kids? Oh no. You know what? Forget I asked that. I am so sorry. Turbines, of course. Try not to get blown away too much. These things can get supersonic if you turn them up.
As we were reworking their transition map, we tried to find some interstitial puzzle elements that would naturally fit into behind-the-scenes areas. The ventilators were inspired by those seen in the Portal 1 mod, Factum Solos. Ventilators seemed like a natural fit for behind the scenes, and while they're not super complex and don't interact with portals, they were good enough to use 1 or 2 times as a pace break. We like to use interstitial elements like these to add variety.
Wind turbines. Of course.
As we were
Try
reworking
not
that
to get
transition
blown
map,
away
we tried to
too
find some
much.
interstitial
These
puzzle
things can
elements
get
that would
super
naturally
sonic
fit
if you
into
turn them
behind
up.
the scenes areas. The ventilators were inspired by those seen in the Portal 1 mod, Factum Solos. The ventilators seemed like a natural fit for behind the scenes, and while they're not super complex and don't interact with portals, they were good enough to use 1 or 2 times as a pace break. We like to use interstitial elements like these to add variety. This turret shredding idea was recycled from one of those areas that never had a home. It was originally placed towards the second half of the game. We like to bring back some of the lesser used elements from the original game, shredders being one of them. Gameplay wise, they're no different to a pit of goo or an infinite drop, but they work well with turrets and fit into this kind of garbage disposal area.
Try to find a way across that bridge. I'm sure you'll figure it out, so I will wait right ahead. Try to find a way across that bridge. I'm sure you'll figure it out, so I will wait right ahead.
This destruction sequence uses a pre-baked physics animation which we created in Blender. During development, we found the game to be way too static for our taste. Building animations and scenes like this is not a walk in the park in Source. Every time you want to test it, you have to open the game, load the map, skip to the section you're building while not skipping any triggers, and watch the whole scene from beginning to end. Iterating this way is a chore. Valve sometimes use vscript to trigger events instead of map logic, which allows them to specify the timings without having to recompile. Yeah, we didn't do that. Oh well, maybe next time.
feel to be an official Aperture employee? Yeah, must be great. Though on that topic, don't try running off without me, okay? Yes, I made up the human emergency response team, but so what? It can still be real. You are human, this is quite an emergency, and you are responding to it. Not quite a team yet, though. No, a team can't consist of one person, that doesn't make sense. I could get more people, but that seems like a lot of work. You know what? I think we two make a great team in of itself. We might not make a fully human team, but you can't always get what you want. Semi-human? I'll go with that. To get back on topic, here's my proposal. You help me repair the facility, and I'll let you leave.
Let's talk about Sterling's voice. You can probably tell from this very charming commentary that his voice is a little bit goofier than my own, but if I get worked up, you'll start to hear it kind of creep through a little bit. Sorry. Stefan wanted me to mention that earlier versions of the voice were even higher pitched. I might have blocked that from memory because I just don't see how that's possible. If that's true, then my audition must have sounded like Elmo. But there is a reason for the voice, because I like to think of him as a kid. There's this immaturity to him, especially when he doesn't get his way. He was basically this pet project that was thrown into a Core's robot body. He's playing all of these different roles at Aperture and he doesn't know how to do any of them. He's just playing pretend until his mom comes back from the parking lot.
For the behind the scenes in between test chamber sections, I made the music a bit more ominous and drony, like the player is seeing something they're not really supposed to see. Later on, I start to play around with more metallic samples, as if the exposed machinery is also a part of the music.
Nicely done. This is a test observation facility. Humans have to sit here all day and watch you test subjects solve the chambers. In real time, too. Imagine.
Act 1 and 3 both play in modern, cleanish Aperture, so we wanted to somehow distinguish the art styles. We ended up making Act 1 orange and Act 3 blue. We liked Aperture's more orange theme in Portal 1 and incorporated those elements even more visibly here. Orange carpet, orange desk dividers, orange wall art. If you take a screenshot, just based on colors alone, you can be pretty confident to say which part of the game it came from. The orange theme in the beginning also feels more homely and cozy, which is in contrast to the dark, cold and lonely feeling we wanted to convey for Act 3.
One of these projectors was going to display a humorous set of slides, which would have covered the rising cost of desk lamps from an unknown thief. This inside joke spawned when one of the desks I detailed contained an overabundance of desk lamps. Soon coming to be known internally as Lamp Man, this mysterious employee would hoard hundreds of lamps and store them in the most nonsensical places.
observation room on the other side that can take you to the elevators. I'm sure you can find another way in there. You're pretty resourceful.
Bombs are used as another pace breaker element. Early on we established clear rules about what can and cannot be broken. Shattered glass breaks, but normal glass doesn't. At first we thought players might note how convenient it is that this chamber has so much broken glass, but to our surprise, this wasn't the case at all. The distinction was immediately intuitive and successful in playtests.
Also, try not to die. I'm tired of mopping up human blood. That red never gets out.
This test chamber is not meant to be solved the normal way, but we still wanted to build a convincing test chamber that looks like it could have been solved at some point. Usually we do this by breaking some test elements. However, players are often still distracted by the non-functional devices, and because the way you're meant to leave this room is very unusual, we wanted to eliminate those as much as possible. That is when we thought of making it a co-op test chamber. Co-op exit doors require both bots to be present at the door. The player in Revolution is neither a bot nor a both, and the playtesters reacted well to the inclusion of co-op chambers in a single-player mod. This test chamber is not meant to be solved the normal way, but we still wanted to build a convincing test chamber that looks like it could have been solved at some point. Usually we do this by breaking some test elements. However, players are often still distracted by the non-functional devices, and because the way you're meant to leave this room is very unusual, we wanted to eliminate those as much as possible. That is when we thought of making it a co-op test chamber. Co-op exit doors require both bots to be present at the door. The player in Revolution is neither a bot nor a both, and the playtesters reacted well to the inclusion of co-op chambers in a single-player mod.
to the never-ending to-do list. You finally found the exit. Those poems are a menace. I have a surprise for you after this last little hurdle. I know. I promised no more tests. Wait, no I didn't. Well then, here you go. I'll wait up ahead and, prepare some things. Take your time.
When making a puzzle, I usually start with an initial idea, some combination of elements or a fun moment, like sliding a cube down a ramp or using a vac tube to bend gel trajectory. Starting with a core idea helps to give the puzzle identity and makes it more memorable. But some puzzles just have to be workshopped. Difficult puzzles in general are often harder to design, or at least hard to make fun. I knew that this puzzle just had to be complex and big. I also wanted it to feature all the test elements previously used in the chapter and offer a satisfying challenge to the monoportal gameplay. As I made all the puzzles in the mod, I often get asked how I come up with them. Honestly, I would love to know that too. Most of the time it's a combination of luck and trial and error. Many chambers have been cut or drastically altered over the years. Starting with a core idea helps to get the ball rolling, but not always do they weave together a cohesive test chamber. Every chamber's creation is unique, but I have found a few methods to put together puzzles that I've been adding to my toolbox over time. One of these methods is to sort of design a chamber backwards. Rather than thinking about each step from the beginning, I would establish my clear condition, place down some elements, load up the map in game, and see if I could solve it. At first it's completely impossible to solve, but now I can iterate. I move elements around, add new ones, remove some, and change the geometry. At every point I test and see if I could solve it. This puts me in the shoes of a player as much as a designer. I'm discovering the solution more so than designing it. This process works well for complex test chambers. Sometimes a chamber that I didn't think was possible turned out to be completable in a surprising way. I like to keep puzzles minimalistic, featuring as few elements as possible. A single element that is used in many ways is more interesting than 20 elements all with a single usage. Some of my favorite portal puzzles are those which feature the least amount of elements. This chamber is certainly not one of them, but that's the whole point. It's intended to be overwhelming, while still keeping the amount of elements as small as possible. Often a puzzle just doesn't come together as you wanted. There's some unintended solution you can't seem to get rid of, overshadowing the actual, more interesting solution. To force the proper solution, it's easy to overcorrect and add elaborate setups or specialized elements that only serve to limit the player in this one specific way. So far in all those cases, a slight change in the geometry, like adding a pit somewhere, has solved the issue. Pits are elegant and incredibly powerful. They can force players to place one or both of their portals to pass. They can feature ramps on one or multiple sides to create a one-way drop. Ramps can be enabled or disabled, creating total-level one-way doors. Portals can be shot across or blocked by a wall above. Light bridges, tractor beams, flings, catapults, and gels can all be used to cross them, all in slightly different and unique ways. Pits can be deadly or safe, friend or foe. I didn't really think much about pits before, but have since realized how versatile they are, and am now more aware and thoughtful about their usage as a legitimate test element.
Surprise! What? What's that look on your face? Did you expect something bad? Yes, it's an actual elevator straight to the surface. Rare find. You're welcome, by the way. I know you humans love the sky for some reason, so I thought this would excite you.
The elevator ride originally ended with an overgrown vista. The vertical nature of the ride made this challenging, and we were struggling to find a good look for it. We also felt like the slow and unceremonious reveal of the surface here took away from the impact of the reveal in the next map, so it was cut.
Look, I know what you're thinking. You really don't trust me. And I've done nothing but sounding like a raving lunatic or a sociopath. Probably both at once, if I'm gonna be honest. In the interest of transparency, this elevator will take you up to the surface. Only thing is, it's not all the way out of the enrichment center. When we get to the surface, we still have a little way to go before we can complete your half of the deal. I'll try to help you where I can with these old test chambers, but there's been a lot of decay, if you catch my drift. But hey, look at the bright side. There's fresh air, it's sunny outside, and I think there's a cool breeze. Just watch out for wild animals. Those are brutal. With any luck, this should take just a few minutes, and then you can go free. Hope we're in the clear now.